What is up guys, in this video I'm gonna show you a small UK Garage beat idea that I made the other day. I got so excited, so I really wanted to show you this, so I recorded this video, and yeah, I'm gonna show you the whole project. So let's jump straight into the FL Studio project. Let's go. Okay, so this is how my beat sounds. So I got pretty much inspired by Interplanetary Criminals to make like some kind of atmospheric UK Garage type beat. So having it like a lot of atmospheric stuff with a lot of reverb and delay and yeah, some tight drums. So I'm just basically gonna go through everything. So I've color coded everything in my project. I like to do that because I have a little bit of OCD. So all of the blue stuff is my drums. The red one is my bass line. The yellow ones are all of my synth instruments. The purple one is vocal chops, and then the last pieces down here are some texture loops and some SFX. So let's start with the drums. So I have this like standard kick drum. I can show you the MIDI just to see how I programmed it. So what I like to do about my drums is that I like to put off some of the notes. So you can see here. This one is pulled off, the 16th grid is being put off a little bit. So you get this type of like swing to the drums. Then I added like this rim shot layer. And you can see some more like off grid stuff is happening right here. Just to give it like that kind of bounce to it. Then next I have like a snare that actually does a little bit of crazy stuff. So I actually didn't like had this hit exactly on the downbeat here, just to randomize it a little bit. So you can see this hit here is being pulled way off to the right compared to this one over here. And then I have some bits in the middle to add like some kind of movement. So it adds like that kind of like shuffliness to it. If you pay attention, down here in my velocity settings, these are not exactly the same. So I have some parts that are louder, some parts that are quieter. And it just adds some kind of dynamic change to my drums, and it just adds a lot of bounce to them. Awesome. Then I have another snare. Just also doing like some more rhythmic stuff. Also, I have added a lot of like quantization to this. So these are like swing quantization presets that just pulls some of the 16th notes off the grid. And it just gives that shuffly kind of feel to it. Then I have like a rim shot on all of the downbeats. Sorry, on all of the offbeats actually. And it just makes like this, adds a little bit of pace to the drums. I think this is a 909 rim shot or an 808 or a 707. I actually can't hear. So you can comment down in the comment field to correct me if I'm wrong. So let's move on. Okay, so I just made some changes to like the two parts of the drop. So over here, my offbeat closed hi-hat is gonna happen. So it's this one. And also one thing I tried out for this beat with my closed hi-hats. Okay, that was the wrong thing that I did. Is that if you pay attention to my notes, these are offbeat, but they are actually not always on the same position on the grid. So some are pulled a little bit to the right, some are straight on the grid. And also the velocity is changing a little bit, I believe. No, I didn't do any changes there, but I think it was the panning that I did something to. No, okay. But the thing about like having stuff pulled a little bit off grid and on grid is that you get this kind of randomization to your drums. So they're not exactly playing on straight on the grid, and it adds that kind of human factor to the drums. Next, I have this like skippy closed hi-hat. So this one, and it's basically also playing on the downbeat. So you get this like, and over here you have like these, where it also gets like this shuffly feel to it. I really like to play around with adding some hi-hats on the downbeat, because it just, again, adds some kind of pace to the rhythm and to the drums, and it just fits the vibe really, really well. Next, I have some clap skips. So you can see here. Also playing with the velocity, and these are also being put a little bit off the grid. And it just adds a little bit extra layering to the drums and also a little bit extra movement. And then I have a clap just to layer on top of my snares and my rim shots. And I think this like clap hit is like really like lo-fi. Yeah. It has like a lot of grit to it, and yeah, it just fitted the vibe totally nice. Then I have an open hi-hat, offbeat open hi-hat. And this is doing something really crazy. Like it's doing... So what's happening is that it's still playing on the offbeat, but then also introducing some areas in the 16 grid where it's also playing, like this area right here. And then I'm actually also experimenting using the going like pitching down the open hi-hat, so we get like a more like gritty kind of tone to it. And this is put on like a lower velocity because I don't want this like to be too obvious. It's just something that can layer underneath the original open hi-hat. One thing that I also did is that for these open hi-hats, I added like an envelope shape for the volume. So that basically means that when I press the note, if I press it really quickly, it's just going to play a really short amount of the sample. And if I just hold down the note, it's going to play everything. It's just a small change to the hi-hats, but it just adds like a little bit extra movement because it makes some of the open hi-hat notes being shorter than some of the other. So it's just a little bit of like extra fiddling to the open hi-hats, but it just adds a lot of character to them. Then I have like this open hi-hat bounce down here. And it's basically just playing like this, like same pattern here, like this. So on the downbeat and then this 16 note, and then it just repeats. And it just works really nicely. So yeah, I just kept it. And then I added like a top loop from Splice, like this one. This one here. Because it had like a lot of like reverb and like texture to it, and it just was pretty nice, and it just added like an extra layer element to my drums. And I really like to do that with my drums when I program drums myself with one shots. I really like to add like a loop from Splice or from a sample pack, because it can just beef up some of the frequency areas in the drum loop that might be lacking a little bit. So I was lacking a little bit of like depth of my drum loop, my own programmed drum loop. So I just added this top loop, and it just completed the loop in my opinion. So pretty nice. Okay, so I route all of my drums besides the kick drum through a drum bus. So basically what I'm doing, like for my hi-hats, they are all routed to one mixer channel in FL Studio. And what I'm doing is that I'm adding Soothe. I don't know if you have heard about this plugin before. If you have watched other like YouTubers doing tutorials, they might have mentioned this plugin. Basically what it's going to do is that it's going to suppress some of the really harsh frequencies like resonance, especially in my hi-hats. So I'm trying to remove them by having this plugin on. So this is basically the area where it's removing stuff. And we can actually press this button here, then you can hear what it's actually removing. So all of this like really resonance kind of stuff is being removed, and it just makes my hi-hats sound a little bit less harsh on the ears, to be honest. So that's what I'm doing, and then I'm doing like a little bit of like a low pass, removing some of the hi-hats because I wanted to like have a more lo-fi kind of sound to my hi-hats. So it's just removing that. And basically I'm not doing anything to all of the individual drum elements, besides a little bit of leveling, but I like to do everything on my drum bus instead, because it just makes the drums feel a little more joined together. So I'm starting off with a transient master just to make the drums a little bit tighter. So I'm reducing the sustain, so they are not sustained too long. I can actually move a little bit. So by decreasing the sustain, you actually get a little bit of like tighter drums that are not too long, basically. And then I'm using this like fielding DSP. It's like excitement distortion in a plugin where you can just increase them, and it just beefs up some areas of the drums, especially like the higher frequencies, and it just makes them sound a little bit more alive, in my opinion. Next, I have the solid bus compressor just to glue together all of the elements, just a little bit of gain reduction, nothing crazy. And lastly, I'm using this like tape machine plugin from Waves, and I'm actually cranking up the saturation knob a lot because I want to really like crush my drums. So okay, so I can actually try to push off, like mute all of my plugins on the drum bus, and then you can hear what it's actually doing. And this is with. So just subtle changes, but it just adds a little bit extra characters, in my opinion, to the drums, making them a little bit like dirtier and lo-fi kind of. Yeah, that's the best word to describe them, I guess. Okay, sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to let you know that I have launched a membership site where you can get exclusive access to sample preset packs, full FL Studio projects that I have made. You can also get some video track feedback on music projects that you're working on. So check out my membership site via the link in the description. Okay, let's get back into the video. Next, I have a bassline, and this is a bassline coming from, let me just have a quick look. I think it's from my old, Silent One. So it's just this like really simple sound. Let me just solo this. Nothing really crazy, but together with everything. It just adds like a lot of like groove together with the drums. So one really nice thing that I have discovered lately is that you can use the Soothe plugin to basically sidechain your bassline. So what I'm doing is that I have a kick drum here on my channel 1 in FL Studio. I'm routing this to my bassline, but as a sidechain trigger input. Then I go to my bassline channel. I have loaded on Soothe. And basically what I have done is that I can go to processing under here, and then I added the kick drum as my sidechain input trigger. I'm going to go back to the plugin, and then basically down here I can enable sidechaining. So every time the kick drum is playing, Soothe is trying to duck away the frequencies of the kick that could be present in the bass line. So this is basically what happens right here. So it's reacting every time the kick drum plays, and it just makes room for the kick drum. So I don't have to like duck away all of the volume and all of the signal. I can actually just duck away some of those frequencies that are overlapping with the kick drum in the lower end of the frequency range. And to me, it just glues everything much nicer together. It sounds really nice. So yeah, that's just something that I found out by just experimenting. And then like I have the exciter from Neutron 3 put on my bassline. I split up the band, so I have like from 150 hertz and upwards. I'm adding like a lot of like tape styled distortion excitement to the bassline just to bring forth some of the upper frequencies. Okay, let me just show you the MIDI pattern so you can see that. And this is also being like, I added like some quantization presets that just makes them a little bit like offbeat, off grid again. Just to give like that bounce kind of feeling to it. Okay, so now we're ready to go to some of the instruments. So what really started this idea was these ambient synth pads right here. Really, really simple stuff. It's like 2 chords that just repeat itself. And the sound is coming from Omnisphere. And it's basically just this preset here, like a factory preset. And what I actually did is that I just routed this to a mixer track. And I actually just added some like sidechaining from Saberbox. So it's just docking in this like 1/4 synchronization. And then it's being, of course, routed to an instrument bus that does a little bit extra. I'm going to show that later. So that's like doing this. And it just fits really well together with the kick drum and like the bass line and all the drums. It really has like that atmospheric, like stereo kind of like wide sound that I wanted for this beat idea. And then like I found like another way to add a little bit of extra flavor to the top, and it's this e-piano sound. And basically what I'm doing is that I'm just playing around on my MIDI keyboard, trying some different riffs and some different patterns, and trying just over the beat playing in the background. And then when I find something that really sounds nice, I just hit record, and then I go back into the piano roll and just tweak it a little bit. But this is basically what I played, and then I added like the swing quantization preset, so it's just getting a little bit bouncy. And the sound is coming from the Arturia, let me see, like Stage 73. I just love this plugin because it just has vibes in it, like really total vibes. And I think like effect-wise, I added like the H-delay stereo from Waves, and I added a fruity limiter, but this is for sidechaining. So I route the kick drum as a sidechain input trigger to my e-piano. I added the fruity limiter in compressor mode, and then I added the kick drum as a sidechain trigger input, and then put the settings. I'm playing around with it. So let me just put up the kick drum so you can see what's happening. So you can see it's ducking away some signal. And this is basically just to make room for the kick drum, because this e-piano sound is a little bit loud in the mix, and I just want to duck away some space for the kick drum. So the kick is gonna be much more present in the mix. And this e-piano is also routed to the instrument bus. And then I added like some chord steps on the downbeat. I think these are also from Silent. Let me see, yes. And just with a lot of reverb. And these are basically following the same chords from the synth pad, the ambient synth pad. And then processing wise, I added a Fruity Soft Clipper just to make sure it was not like having like too loud peaks, transients. And then I just added like a Fruity Reverb too, just to like really make it have a long tail and just really like atmospheric in the background, just to fill up the frequencies in the background. And then also routed to the instrument bus. And then the last like instrument stuff that I have is these like stab synths down here. And these these are, I believe, also coming from Silent. Yeah, I just had like a moment where I just enjoyed playing around with this old VST, but it just has a really like nice analog sound. And this is like having a little bit of like attack to the filter cutoff, so it's not so like really pluggy to it. And routed to like a mixer track, it's doing a little bit more stuff here, to be honest. Like H delay from waves to add a little bit of delay, and then I added like this tall curse, emulating the Juno curse, the RC20 just to add a little bit of grid to it, and neutron free to, I believe, to clean up the. Okay, it's like really slow. Okay, yeah, so just clean up like the low end, and also like removing some of the low mids that was a little bit too dominant. And like it's really not, my computer is not so happy using like neutron free, so it's like a little bit laggy. And then a soft clipper just to clip away some of the loud peaks of the transients, and then a shaper box just to dock with the like the signal like every time. So it's the same. It's actually the same settings as the synth, the ambient synth pad. So all of my instruments together. And I really wanted them to have like this like atmospheric kind of vibe to it. So a lot of reverb, a lot of delay, and basically that's it for the like my synth instruments. They are all being routed to an instrument bus with neutron free. Now I'm trying to open it. So just cleaning away low end to make room for bass and kick drum. Doing like solid bus compressing, just also to glue stuff together a little bit. And then I'm using this passive EQ. So I'm boosting at around 3000 hertz area with a broad like bell boost. This is just really nice sounding, like a nice musically sounding EQ. So I really love to boost a lot with this plugin, but mainly on like my buses. And then I have like added a high shelf from 8K and upwards, just to boost the presence of the different synth instruments, basically, and the E-piano. And then I'm also doing like the Fruity Limiter sidechain trick for the instrument bus also, because then I just make a little bit more room for my kick drum. So this is like all of the instruments. Yeah, it just has like a really, really cool vibe to it, in my opinion. So then one of the last things that I added was like these vocal chops down here. And basically what I do is that I can just, let me just mute the processing. I just go to Splice and find some come on, one more time, baby, vocal samples and just chop them up and find like small bits that make sense in my beat. And then I add like a ton of processing. Like I add this kilohertz ensemble plugin just to make it like sound more like a choir, kind of, almost like a chorus effect. Adding like removing a lot of the low end and also some of the high end, so we get like this kind of telephone effect to the vocal chops, because I want to just blend them in more in the background. Some delay from Fruity Delay 3, and also some reverb from Fruity Reverb 2, and then I'm doing like a high pass filter just to make sure that I didn't introduce any unwanted low end by using some of these plugins. And then the shaper box to dock away for some side chaining. This is again the same settings as my synth pad and the other like synth stabby thing here. Okay, so let's just listen to these like together with my instruments. So they are just positioned in like in the background and just supporting my other element, like my instruments. So I don't want these to be like too like pushed in front of the audience. This is just something to play around in the atmospheric area of the beat. So pretty awesome. Okay, so the last things are the SFX sounds. I'm not gonna go too much into depth with these. Like I love to add field recordings. So this is me like in Copenhagen doing some field recordings with a field recorder in the shopping street, getting like some cool sounds for people walking by in the street. And I just love to add this in the background of my tracks because it just adds that organic kind of vibe to my tracks. If you're interested in browsing some of these ambient field recordings, you can go to my web shop. I have a lot of different packs. So this is a great tip to introduce into your tracks to add a little bit of flavor. And then like I have this vinyl crackling noise from Splice, also added in the background. And what I like to do with these like field recordings and texture loop, I want to move a lot of the low end because this is not necessary. You can also remove a little bit of the top end if needed. And then like I have like sweep downs, like some chimes, these like saps, some sweeps up. And this is like the standard stuff that I use. So nothing crazy. So that's like basically it for this beat. I think I spent like maybe like 1 to 2 hours on this. Like, and now I have like all the elements that I need. So like the next step would be to maybe sketch out an idea. So yeah, this is how it sounds. Enjoy. Pretty vibey. Okay guys, that's it for this video. If you liked it, it means so much to me if you smash that like button or even subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss any future video on this channel. I have launched a Discord server for producers. It's a place where we share our track ideas, get feedback, provide feedback, and generally just help each other out. It's a really cool place to talk about music and just hang out. And I really want you to get involved. If you want to, you can join the Discord via the link in the description down below. And as I mentioned in the video, I have a lot of sample packs and preset packs. So if you want to support this channel even further, you can go check them out. The link is in the description down below. So I hope to see you in the next video. Take care. Peace.